Після оголошеної перерви продовжуємо засідання.
After the break, we shall continue the session. Please invite the candidate to the position of the judge of the Hague, Skreklia Lesia Ivanivna.
Прошу сідати.
Please be seated.
Розглядається питання щодо
We're
відповідності
considering the issue of whether the candidate Skreklia Lesia Ivanivna is compliant with the criteria of the position of the judge at the High Anti-Corruption Court. The PCIe members are present here. Names follow.
Норман Ас, Мері Батлер дистанційно, Габріеле Юдо Кайте, Гран Скієн дистанційно, Джон Саліван, Джесіка Томпсон і члени Вищої кваліфікаційної комісії суддів
HQCJ members are present in this session. Names follow.
Ярослав Дух, Роман Кедасюк також приєднається по службовій необхідності. Є Роман Кедасюк, є. Надія Кобецька, Ігор Кушнір, Олексій Омелян, Руслан Сабодаш, Руслан Сидорович зараз приєднається до нас, Сергій Чумак, Галина Шевчук.
Ruslan Sidorovich will join us shortly.
Вам зрозумілий склад комісії?
Is the composition of the commission clear to you? Yes, it is clear.
Вам слід роз'ясняти права?
Do you want me to explain your rights to you? No, thank you. No new materials are being considered in the special joint session unless the candidate has provided all of their documents within the required timeline, and with the consent of at least 3 members of the commission, new materials can be added to consideration in case the circumstances of those materials can significantly affect the status of the candidate. Motions, recusals, none. Thank you. The rapporteur in your case is Kobecka Nadia. You have the floor. So, the general information about the candidate participating in the competition. Skreklia Lesia Ivanivna in 2009 graduated from Lviv State University of Internal Affairs, earned her degree in law, and gained her attorney's qualification. She has an academic degree. She holds a PhD in criminal law, criminology, criminal and enforcement. The title of her PhD dissertation is Cruelty as Cross-Cutting Criminal and Legal Notion. Her professional activities. She worked as a legal counselor from 2008 to 2012. From 2012, she started working as having teaching positions, first as an assistant at the Department of Theory of State and Law, then as a senior lecturer, and then as associate professor, and today she is associate professor at the Department of Criminal Law and Process at Lviv Trade and Economic University. So she has taught since 2012, and she is running in this competition as a candidate having scientific background and experience in academic work at least 7 years. She has submitted the Declaration on Family Ties, Integrity Declaration, and Declaration of a person authorized to perform the function of the state or local self-governance. The Commission sent inquiries to different state bodies of Ukraine and received answers. Statements from CSOs are also attached to the candidates' dossier. Thank you. Thank you. Are the facts reflected correctly in this report, or would you like to add anything? Thank you. The information is reflected correctly. Thank you. Then over to the PCIe chair, Robert Brookhuizen. Over to you, Robert.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Ms. Skreklia. Do you mind if I say Lesia to you? Is that okay? Yes? I'm your rapporteur, so you have to do it with me this time. Because we're always running out of time and we sit here for endless. John is going to watch my time. And that means that I will use exactly 40 minutes. And I would ask you to shortly answer the questions, so not give a long and big expose about everything, but try to be concise. And the first question I have for you is, concisely, why do you want to become a hack judge?
Для мене здійснення
For me,
правосуддя у Вищому антикорупційному
administering justice in the Hague Court is one of the peaks in a legal career that is characterized by a high level of professional responsibility and lies under intense public scrutiny. I'm confident that the Hague is a court of justice where rule of law reigns, and this is the court that can help minimize corruption in this state, and I would like to join this team of professionals. I appreciate that I don't have experience in administering justice. I'm aware that once I become a Hague Court judge, I will need to make much more effort than usual in order to learn from the colleagues who are more mature, and at the same time, I also got certain skills that can really help me when administering justice. Since 2012, I have taught criminal law.
Please be concise, which is also, let's say, something a judge should do, being concise. In my view, in any case, but judge is John is a judge, and he's extremely concise. I can tell you that. The question I have for you: you work in the University of Lviv, I've seen, and in fact, you work for the. Let me see, the Lviv University of Trade and Economics. Yes, it's correct, huh? And being interested in Ukraine, I'm reading for the last 5 years all the news that I can read on Ukraine, and I've seen that this university has been subject to investigation because of corruption. And there are two issues, if I'm not mistaken. One, there's an issue about that the management was involved in, let's say, dubious, allegedly, what do I know as a foreigner, buying stuff where they become richer themselves. And secondly, I've seen that there is trade and influence, as we call it in corruption land, which means giving away titles against a small amount of money. Is this anything that you have experienced when you were working there?
Якщо відверто, то я вперше чую про цю
To
інформацію.
be frank, this is the first time I hear about this. I have worked at this university since 2012, and I haven't heard of such information. I'm not in possession of any other information regarding this.
Maybe that's a different university then?
Справа в тому, що, можливо, яка юридична адреса,
Thing
якщо
is,
можна уточнити.
which is the legal address of the university? Because my university is in Tuhan Branovsko Street 12. It used to be Lviv Commercial Academy. Then the title was changed to Lviv University of Trade and Economics. And I think that my colleagues know about this information neither.
I have, for instance, in front of me an article of 2025 which says that the vice rector and the head of university's procurement department are accused of abuse during tenders. Is that not your university?
Скажіть, будь ласка, це прізвище ректора, якщо можна.
Could you give me the surname of the rector, if you can? Because I don't really...
I don't know at all because I'm not able to see this. I have another article in front of me which says that 6 scientists were suspended because of allegations of demanding a bribe for defending dissertations. I don't know. It's all in any case, in Lviv area. And what I read is that it's about the Lviv University, Lviv State University of Internal Affairs. I'm just looking on the other side of the bench. Of course, you know better than I do. Am I completely wrong? Is this not happening?
Львівський державний університет внутрішніх
Lviv
справ.
State University of Internal Affairs is the university where I studied. I work at the Lviv University of Trade and Economics.
Yes, I know
So,
this. Let me see where I can find it. Let me see. The Lviv, that's Lute. What I read here, but it may be wrong, that in June 25, the vice rector and the head of procurement of the National University in Lviv, yes, Lute, I'm called, are being, let's say, that's alleged, let's say, the relationship with corruption. And also, I read that there is a bulletin which came up in 2026, where bribes were asked for $2,000 for to have a positive result in dissertation. But maybe this is nothing to do with your university. I don't know. I'm just reading the press. What can I say? But that you have no, let's say, experience with any corruption when you were doing your work in this university.
Я думаю, що, мабуть, кожна людина в житті стикалася
I
з
think
корупцією.
anyone
Скажімо так,
has encountered corruption. So I have worked at the university since 2012, and people turn to me,
знайомі моїх друзів,
that is friends of my friends, in order to receive consultations regarding admission to a certain university, and I, of course, would provide my consultations which university to choose. And during such conversations, I could be asked, whether it's worth hedging the risks, because a part of our society still believes in post-Soviet stereotypes that you can make a deal with anyone. So we used to have a different admission procedure. Now we have the external independent evaluation, ZNO, that minimizes corruption risks. And when people ask me whether they need to hedge risks, I immediately objected to that vivaciously, and I would say that this is criminal, and there are possibilities for our students to be admitted on a fair basis.
Okay, maybe you can take a bit of distance from the microphone because I have difficulty to hear the translation when you are speaking. So maybe a bit different, bit backwards from the microphone. You're married to, if I'm not mistaken, investigator, a senior investigator, someone who's also involved in combating corruption. That's true, huh? Or is that incorrect?
Я вийшла заміж за правоохоронця, тобто мій
So
чоловік
I
працював
married
на
a
національному
law
поліції,
enforcement
на
officer.
різних посадах,
He worked at the
в
National Police. In 2018, he
на посаду слідчого державного
won the competition to become an investigator of the State Bureau of Investigations.
And this bureau investigates also corruption of judges, correct?
Так, все вірно.
Would you not be
Yes,
afraid
this is
if you
correct.
would be a Hague judge that your husband would tell you things about the judges in the Hague that, or other judges that would make you uncomfortable? Is this not something like a conflict of interest?
Ми з чоловіком, у нас однакові цінності
My
життєві.
husband and I share life values, and my husband counters criminals. So the issue of pressure is about whether I allow this pressure to be exerted on myself. And the answer is no, I will not allow that. And moreover, I can say that when I started out as a teacher, my husband told me something. Work the way you will not be embarrassed when looking in your students' eyes. And that can be applied to any industry, any area.
But you do not consider this to be a conflict of interest. Is that what I understand?
Якщо можна, конкретизуйте, будь ласка.
Could you make your question more concrete if possible?
Well, do I understand that what you say is that the fact that you are married to a senior investigator does not have any influence on your work if you would be appointed as a Hague judge?
Абсолютно не матиме.
It will not have any influence. I maintain very strict moral values in my life that keep me within my position. Thank you.
But the SBI will be investigating people that you will get to know, and maybe your colleagues, or so that it seems to be difficult.
Можливо, і не буде просто, однак, якщо
It will not be easy, but in case a certain inquiry will relate to me, I would be if I am a party in a certain case, then I have a right to make self-recusal under the law.
Yeah. We have looked at your dissertation. You know that we asked some questions about that. For the openness, we will discuss this with you. You have written a dissertation on cruelty as a cross-cutting criminal law concept. And our assistants have done some research on your dissertation, and we found that parts of the dissertations and also how the dissertation is built up looks a bit similar than as a dissertation written by someone you know quite well, I understand. And it seems that if you look at the text of the dissertation, that certain paragraph, only a few words are changed. That it looks as if certain words like grave consequences and has replaced the word cruelty, or the word cruelty was replaced by grave consequences. And I understand that this may have happened because during the time that you were writing this dissertation, you worked together with the person who wrote the other dissertation. Is that correct? So how was it possible that this would happen? That it looks like paragraphs in your dissertation are similar to the paragraphs in the dissertation that was written by someone else.
Yes, indeed. My colleague and I, we worked at working our thesis in parallel. We studied at the same time. Our scientific advisor, Navrotsky, is the same, and my colleague and I exchanged scientific communication. We maintained this communication. We exchanged opinions, but that is a characteristic of all students that Mr. Navrotsky advises while they're writing their thesis. And we do that in order to search dissent and strengthen our scientific skills. And my colleague and I also share the general theme of the thesis, a cross-cutting notion in criminal law. And of course, the general leitmotif of our thesis is somewhat similar. But my text was published earlier than my colleague's dissertation. My colleague defended his dissertation in 2013, and I defended it in 2014. However, my text, my dissertation, was submitted to the department much earlier than my colleague's text. There is an article from the Journal of the University in 2012. That article was published. It arrived to the journal in 2011, and some statements overlapped with the text from the dissertation of my colleague. He defended his thesis in 2014. I also published one more article in 2012 in the Bar Association journal, and there are a few paragraphs that really mostly identical to some paragraphs from my colleague's text. But I did my best in order to find that article, Unfortunately, that article is unavailable on the internet. I made an inquiry to the Bar Association Academy, and this is how we found the document in the Word format that I submitted in 2012, and I sent it to the Commission.
Yeah, we have seen that. But when I think about your answer, is not what you are saying that your colleague has copied your texts? Is that what you say?
Насправді дуже легко когось
In fact,
звинувачувати за його
It's really easy to accuse him of that. I'm not here to accuse anyone. My task is to establish the truth because it really matters. During our scientific communication, when I submitted my work to the Department of Criminal Disciplines, my colleague asked me to give him my dissertation in order to study some structural elements, in order not to overlook some elements in his thesis. I really had doubts because my dissertation was not published yet, but I was sure that I would publish my thesis earlier than him. At the same time, I trusted him because we maintained we were in friendly terms, but it could be that my colleague could interpret some of the statements from my thesis as universal and use them in his thesis too. And this topic, I started studying it during my master's. I started exploring cruelty as one of the elements of actus reus.
Please keep yourself to the question. Huh? So my question was, did your colleague copy it? And if I understand your answer, what you say is, I'm not here to say something nasty about my colleague, but I sent him a draft, and yeah, if I understand it correctly, he may have used that. The point is, however, that let's say that I would ask your colleague the same question. Most likely, I expect that his answer, is a he or a she, I don't know, would be the same, wouldn't it? That he would say, well, I published my thesis earlier. It was my text, it's my thesis. So that it's not true that this was copied by me. It's my text. Is that not what you would expect? And he's not here, so we cannot ask him or her.
Але я звертаю вашу увагу на те, що мною було надано як підтвердження публікації
provided as a proof the publication that was identical with my colleague's paragraph. My article in 2012, and my colleague defended his thesis in 2013. The article that I submitted to the Bar Association Academy journal in 2012, I sent it to you as a material, already had some statements that echoed with statements in my colleague's thesis. My work was published earlier.
But maybe he had some earlier publications as well. I didn't investigate that, but that may be so.
Однак я це досліджувала. І для мене це дуже
I studied that though, and this is an important issue for me. It's about my reputation as an academician in the eyes of my teachers, my students, in the eyes of my scientific advisor, because for me it would be the hardest thing is to do something that would upset my scientific advisor. And I can assure you that I did not violate any rights, and I haven't violated any requirements of academic integrity.
Well, if we look at the structure of the thesis, it also looks identical. It looks, of course, I was not there, but it looks as if you were working closely together, sitting next to each other, making some kind of the same index, the same subjects, the same way that you designed this thesis. And I'm not an academician, so what do I know? But I would say there's nothing much against that, as long as you specify that in your thesis that you have done that. So what's your view on that? And the point that of course, I'm asking this has to do something with integrity. And if you're a Hak judge, yeah, integrity should be first. And that's, of course, the reason I'm asking those questions.
Я пояснила те, що, скажімо,
I explained that the same structure of the content is due to the fact that we investigated cross-cutting concepts of criminal law, and we had the same academic supervisor who directed us, gave some recommendations that we listened to. But once again, I would like to stress that if I knew that there are doubts about me, I wouldn't dare to submit my application to such a level of competition, because everything becomes apparent here. So I can say that my conscience is clear, and it's an important issue for me because I worked on my dissertation for 5 years, and before that there was a similar topic of my master thesis, the topic of cruelty as element of crimes. So for me, it's a matter of principle to clarify that. It seems to me that I provided proofs that show that I haven't violated any requirements of academic integrity.
I don't, it is not at all what I say. I'm just asking the question. And you say that, if I understand you well, that the structure of the thesis is similar because the supervisor explained to you possibly how the structure of a thesis should look like. But he didn't dictate to you, I would say, how exactly the chapters of this thesis should look like. I'm sure that if I'm writing a thesis together with John, it would look very different. I'm sure. Completely different, by the way. That's the point. That so only referring to your supervisor, I don't know whether that is a full explanation.
Справа в тому, що структура моєї роботи,
Actually, the structure of my work was evolving in the course of my work during the meetings at the department, during the seminars, and when I submitted the work to the department, the content was a bit different, but those who wrote reviews to my work also suggested some changes. And during the interdepartmental seminar, the topic was a little bit modified, so everything was getting edited over time, and of course under the supervision of my scientific supervisor and those who provided the reviews.
Thank you for your answer. I believe that you live in an apartment in Lviv that is owned by your father. That's correct, huh?
Все вірно.
Yes, that's correct.
And I have information in front of me that this apartment was acquired by your father for in 2016 for, let's say, 1.3 million hryvnias. That's correct, huh?
Все вірно.
Yes, that's correct.
You have also a sister?
Так, у мене є одна рідна сестра.
Yes, I have one sister.
Is she also living in an apartment that's owned by your parents?
Моя сестра проживає у місті
My
Стрий
sister lives in the town of Stry
разом зі своєю сім'єю.
together with her family.
But in an apartment that's owned by your parents? Or
Все вірно.
finance?
Yes, that's right.
Все вірно.
And how big is that apartment?
Yeah, that's
of your
right.
sister?
У місті Стрию, так?
In the town of
78
Stray,
квадратних метрів,
it is 78 square meters,
якщо я правильно зрозуміла.
if I understood the question correctly.
Площа квартири сестри,
The area of my sister's apartment is 78 square meters.
And your parents, they also live in an apartment. I'm not sure where. In Dulibi. No? Dulibi? No?
Мої батьки проживають у
My
селі
parents
Доліве.
live in the village Dulibe of Stray Rayon since 2015. Dulibe.
Yeah, in an old house. I know that. How did your parents acquire so much money that they could buy 2 apartments for the 2 sisters, which are quite large and nice apartments, I understand?
Мгм. Справа в тому, що період з
Yes,
95-го
in
по
the period
2015
since 1995 till 2015, my father systematically went to the Russian Federation to earn money. My mother,
Something not going well. Hello?
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Is there translation?
Моє перекладу прошу
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
поновити переклад.
Is your working? Yes, I don't know what it is. Is your working? No? Hello?
Good. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Продовжуємо.
The translation is there. Let's continue.
Також моя мама в період
Also, my mother,
2000 року
uh,
по 2010
from
рік
2000 till 2010, from time to time, went abroad to the Russian Federation to earn money and for the funds earned by my parents in the Russian Federation. First, they bought the apartment in 2012 with the area of 47 square meters in Lviv city. My parents didn't buy an apartment for my sister in Street Town. They didn't participate in the purchase of that apartment, and I can explain more if needed.
The point is that we always asking those questions because many judges and people who apply in Ukraine always explain that the place where they live is being paid for by the parents. And then when I look at that, I also have difficulty to find out how it's possible that this was all paid for. No translation?
Немає. Я не чую нічого.
I cannot hear anything.
Ой.
Hello? I hear translation.
О. Все добре.
Everything works now.
Продовжуємо засідання. Тоді є
We may continue.
We're asking those questions because very often when we interview people for judge positions, very often the place where they live is financed by the parents, and we always have difficulty to find out how that was being paid for. I understand that you bought, or let's say together with your husband, an apartment in Kyiv. Why did you buy that? You knew in advance that you would be appointed in The Hague?
Насправді ми накопичували на цю
Actually,
квартиру
we were accumulating
13 років часу.
funds for this apartment for 13 years. We didn't have our own house, our own apartment, because the place where we currently live belongs to my parents. And before that, we were not considering buying an apartment in Kyiv, but the cost of real estate in Lviv is currently not reasonable because it's due to the martial law, and the quality of construction doesn't correspond to the costs. And when I was participating in a competition to get the position of judge in a local court, we had time and we were looking at different residential complexes, and we liked the apartment we bought in the Metropolis residential complex. What was the purpose of acquiring it? Yes, it was hard for us to accumulate these funds. It took quite some time, but we consider two options. First one is moving to Kyiv, possibly, and second option is if the war ends, we plan that the cost of real estate in Lviv might go down, and in Kyiv the cost will go up, and we will be able to sell this apartment in Kyiv and buy a different one in Lviv. So these are two options we have, and currently we haven't decided yet.
So it's an investment.
Якщо ми продамо,
If we sell the apartment in Kyiv and buy one in Lviv, because before in 2021, we considered an option with our parents, and we decided to alienate the apartment in Lviv city to buy a one-room.
Was it an investment or was it not investment? Who is living there?
в Києві ніхто
In
не
Kyiv,
проживає, оскільки
no one
це
lives in the apartment in Kyiv because the construction is not finished, and it will be commissioned in 2027.
Okay, and then you decide what to do with it. You're going to live there, you're going to sell it. And you bought it, if I'm not mistaken, for 3.7 million hryvnia. Is that correct? Which is quite a lot of money.
It's correct.
And I see that you also, in 2024, you bought a car, a Honda, and I believe in damaged position for $9,500. Correct?
Невеличке уточнення у
I will clarify. It happened in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. It was either in 2020 or 2021, but it was imported into the territory of Ukraine in 2021. And the cost of the car was $9,500. The husband bought it on an auction in the US. And of course, there were additional costs related to customs, repairs, import. And within the period from 2018 till 2024, the salary of my husband was 8 million hryvnias. Of course, that apartment was bought for his funds.
Okay. And so you say, sorry, I made a mistake. You're quite correct that the car was bought in 2020. My fault. So this car was repaired. Do you have any idea what it costed to repair it?
Так, звичайно, і
Yes, of course. And I provided these documents to you. The customs operations costed around $4,000, and the repairs $1,500 and to transport the car it also costed $1,500. So of course there were repairs, but nothing too significant. And but overall there were 16,500 US dollars, and it includes the cost of the vehicle itself and additional expenditures.
And you are of the opinion that buying this car and a few years later this apartment, you had money enough to do that?
Так, справа в тому, що
Yes,
я не пригадую за
I do not recall the period. It was in 2020. Just one second.
заробітна плата мого чоловіка
The salary of my husband was $32,000, 34,000 US dollars. So we can extract $9,500, which is the cost of the vehicle, and $13,000 were the funds we used for our survival. So in 2020, it was around 20,000 hryvnias per month.
We spent in the interview together 39 minutes and 13 seconds, so I'm on time. Just looking at my colleague. Question on the screen. No, back to you, Madam Chair.
Дякую.
Thank
Пані
you.
Надія, прошу вам.
Miss Nadia, you have 20 minutes for your questions.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Як я вже сказала, по-перше, є в нас
As I previously said, there are comments from civil society organizations related to your dossier. Some things were already discussed and asked about by Mr. Robert, but I would like to clarify in some messages from CSOs. We read about the cost of the parking space, and you explained that the real cost of the parking space is 120,000 hryvnias. You made a mistake, but your husband indicated the correct cost in his declaration. It is not 12, but 120,000. We had questions about that. Also, there was a number of questions related to the declarations and maybe lack of diligence or lack of attention. Some CSOs write that in your declaration and the declaration of your husband, the date of acquisition of the apartment differs. And if you read one of the CSO's messages, it says that you didn't indicate the apartment acquisition, but you did, but the date was different. Why was this difference in date? I think my husband was not attentive enough because that apartment was the apartment of my parents and it belongs to my mother, my sister and myself. And I learned myself that I had a share in that apartment in 2017. Please, I asked a question about the difference in acquisition dates. What was the real date of acquisition? I got it 2005. All right, so there is a mistake in your husband's declaration. Failure to declare membership in the National Bar Association of Ukraine. You have attorney's license. Why did you mention that? Unfortunately, I maybe automatically skipped that section. I didn't aim to conceal this information because it is publicly available, and after the request from the Public Council of International Experts in the electronic cabinet, I indicated the information that I failed to indicate it, but I didn't intend to conceal it, of course. So it was a mistake, yes. In the declaration, you mentioned that you live in the apartment bought by your parents. There is only one address of registration. We will not dwell on that. But you don't have to declare. Why did you select the option doesn't apply if you know the cost of this apartment? Why didn't you select the box doesn't apply? You understand that declaration has to ensure transparency and transparent information. And when you select the box doesn't apply, you could also select not aware, but you were aware. So why did you select that box? Was it conscious? Of course, I filled in the declaration for the first time, and maybe I do not know enough about the specifics of filling it in. I will work on it. I didn't intend to conceal any information, but it's absent from the declaration. When you submitted the documents, once again, it was your first time that you filled in the declaration, but I guess there are quite clear explanations in the law about how to fill in the declarations of family relations and declaration of integrity. You probably understand already what was your mistake in the declaration of family relations. Unfortunately not. If we open your declaration of family ties, you enumerated all the relatives, minors, your children who are minors, the parents, the aunt, and everyone else. Please read about the purpose of the declaration. You shouldn't indicate everyone there, but only those who might have potential conflict, lead to potential conflict of interest. Yes, maybe I just wanted to be sure, but it's a wrong way to fill in the declaration. The declaration of integrity of a candidate, it can, according to the explanations, you as a candidate have to fill it in with the information for your whole life, but you only provided information for 2024. Did you do it automatically? You just wrote the year 2024 automatically, but you really provided information only for that year, not for the whole life. Maybe back then I wasn't aware of all of these details. Well, when you go to the website where you should fill in the declaration, the first section contains explanations with the rules how to fill in the declaration, and the second section is the declaration itself. So it's strange that it was your first time that you filled in the declaration and you didn't read how to do it. It's about transparency, it's about provision of correct information, and it's hard to understand now whether it was conscious or not, because if you provided information for your whole life, the last point about the acts that lead to liability, you you indicated only one violation, but you explained that yes, you were charged with administrative liability, but you filled in for 2024, and in 2024 there were no offenses. So we need to understand all the information about candidate, and it's important to indicate everything. Another question is related to that same submission of documents. You submitted questionnaire, and in the part what competitions or procedures you participated in and what were the results of this participation, you wrote never participated in any competitions. You just mentioned that you participate in the selection. Yes, I do participate in the selection. So you said that there were no participations here. Why so? Well, it was probably another mistake.
Ще одне запитання,
Another question.
Пан Роберт починав з
Um,
цього запитання.
Actually, Mr. Robert already started on the topic of it's about the motivation to participate in the competition to the position of HACC judge. If we look at your motivation letter, you first describe your activities as a scientist. You describe that you've been working in this area for some time and you were not considering a judge career, but you think that you do not betray your life principles. And then you write, when I learned about the competition to get the position of a judge, I realized that it will be an opportunity to act on my life principles. I already saw that you applied for all three specializations, commercial, administrative, and general. And so, do you have any priorities, or you just learned about the competition and you decided to apply to different competitions, or you were choosing according to your professional skills and competences, according to your inner convictions? What were the things you were guided with? Of course, I set the HACC as a priority because, first of all, the specialization is quite narrow and it allows me to focus my attention on consideration of criminal cases related to corruption. And of course, a specialist is someone who knows a lot, but within a narrow circle of matters. So, of course, the criminal specialization is closer to me because all of my areas, all of my specializations are related to the criminal area. At the same time, it's quite a complicated selection for the candidates, which makes it possible for those who do not correspond to integrity requirements to participate. Of course, I would like to be surrounded by good people if I make it to the HACC, and of course, something which is inherent is that I do not absolutely tolerate corruption, and I think that it will mean helping the aggressor state who destroys our country. And I try to communicate this position to my students as well. It's important for me that they have a vision, sound vision of their future, and I try to be a good example for them to the extent possible. Thank you. So the priority is this specific competition. Let's go back to the declaration, in part related to the accumulation of cash. You only filled in one declaration. At the same time, your husband has declarations which were subject to analysis. And in particular, there were declarations from 2018 and 19 where the funds were reflected, and we can see your funds and the funds on your husband there. In particular, in 2018, at the end of the year, you had 80,000 hryvnias of assets. In 2019, 140,000. So the difference is 60,000 hryvnias. At the same time, if we analyze the income before taxes, it's approximately 82,000. After paying taxes, it's approximately 66,000. You got the income of 66,000 for 1 year. How could you save 60,000, which means that you spent only 6,000?
Я не зовсім зрозуміла, мабуть, питання, однак
I didn't quite understand the question, probably. But given that my income is not that significant compared to my husband's income, we did not live on my income. In fact, my husband would get his salary, and then we would convert them to dollars and euros. My income was untouched, and we used it only to cover our daily expenses. So I believe all of it is in line with the law, and I provided proofs. Yeah, of course, you submitted documents to prove your income, your husband's income, and the remaining sum in the end of the year. It is quite significant. But in declarations 2023, 2024, your husband states the property as shared. Here we are talking about separated income of yours and income of your husband's. So it seems like you only had 6,000 to cover your expenses per month. Yeah. So, but we realize that you relied on your husband's income. You were a participant of a traffic incident, but it turned out that it was a different person, not you, and the date of birth was different. And the reason why you said you didn't know of this accident and the car is explained by this fact that it was not you. And then regarding your academic work raised by Robert, but I would like to come back to those coincidences to clarify, just for my understanding. And I examined the conclusions of your dissertation, and I noticed some similarities. And as our colleagues who come from beyond Ukraine, they completely understand what scientific work is like. And usually two authors have a different style of writing. It may be that the content resembles, bear some resemblances, but at least the structure should be different. So we've got 2 pages among 5 pages of conclusions that bear many resemblances. In one of the conclusions, we see the analysis of criminal cases that have cruelty as an element. There are spread mistakes when qualifying those cases. We find situations when the same crimes get different qualifications. And the second dissertation analysis of verdicts in criminal cases that have element of grave consequences show that mistakes are well spread when it comes to qualifying those crimes. So, of course, you authored your thesis at the same time, and I heard that your work was admitted on June 6th. You've got shared publications. Did you talk to your colleague about the situation? Let's say he published his article in August, but still, I'm just making assumptions, but it really looks weird. How come could you be so telepathic? Could I have 2 minutes to comment on this? So the thing is, I talked about the article in 2012 for the Bar Association Academy Journal, and the last paragraph and the last 2 paragraphs, I highlighted them in cursive, and that publication was submitted by me in 2012. So the conclusions that are there in my thesis, they were published in 2012, and my colleague defended his thesis in 2013. So probably I made a big mistake that is now haunting me like this. I highlighted those paragraphs in bold. But it would be a lesson for me for the whole my life. Regarding your professional growth, since 2012, you started teaching, started lecturing. Then in 2014, you defended your thesis. And how about academic title? This is a natural way of academician's evolution. And you've got 5 years of professional experience in lecturing. Why do you not submit documents to receive academic title? So in 2026, in May, I will have an open lecture that I will hold. This is one of the... You can hold an open lecture at any time, and I think the departments encourage that. Well, currently, it's really difficult to find articles in the Scopus and publish the article there. And that is what keeping me from getting the academic title. I understand that this is important for an academician. I already have 3 defended theses, and I could apply for the academic title of professor. I will work on it. And another question regarding a practice of shared joint publications. I noticed that you got a lot of joint publications, but generally speaking, joint publications and joint research is a prerogative of technical areas. In humanities, in law, joint publication is not a thing. So recently, it has started becoming trendy because of Scopus that the Ministry of Science and Education requires us to use. And if you, when you need to pay $500 to publish an article, and $500 is a monthly wage of a lecturer, then there can be a joint publication when there is a shared area of research where a group of scientists is working on. So you got a lot of joint publications, and they are quite miscellaneous. And you even submitted key points, key messages for a conference as a shared authorship, as a co-authorship. How do you do this work? So the most recent publication was done in 2024, and I explained my position to the colleagues. One of my colleagues worked in the prosecutor's office for a long time, and I wanted to hear her opinion on the subject. She supported me, and I asked whether I could state her name as a co-author. So this is how I shared this publication with her. She expressed her opinion, and this is how we got that publication. This is one publication. I agree that you could have joint publications, but the thing is that almost all your publications are joint publications, and they come from different fields of law. Compensation, criminal law, martial law, treason, punishment for criminal offenses. I, as a scientist, I have a hard time understanding how it can be that you've got so many joint publications. How come you co-authored so many publications from different fields of knowledge? When we have collective monographies, I can get it because we have different chapters authored by different scientists. It might testify to artificial increase in scientific publications volume. When one colleague authors a part of article, and then the other author contributes another part, but each of those scientists have 2 articles in their scientific databases. Well, last year I had 7 publications. It's not about myself trying to increase my scientific publications volume artificially. It's that I do have many publications per year, 7 publications last year, for instance, and this is a very ordinary format of work. Thank you. But as we have seen, cooperation with your colleague early on in your career has led to some dubious outcomes. Well, I didn't share the text of my dissertation with my colleague as I wrote my thesis, and vice versa. I submitted my text earlier to the department and it was published. Okay, thank you. We have run out of time almost. Maybe other colleagues would like to ask some questions. Yes, sure. Just a brief question. Ruslan Sidorovich, the member of the commission. Because we've done a deep dive, we've made a deep dive into the academic area regarding the practical assignment completed by the candidate, the punishment, the extent of punishment, depending on the timing, the chronology of the offense committed, and the verdict made. So the level of punishment was changed, punishment was increased, and punishment is oftentimes increased in corruption-related cases. So what is your stance on this issue for us to make a closure of this academic theme? How could you substantiate your position? Why would you act like this? Thank you. The law of Ukraine on criminal justice has retroactive force.
Кримінальну протиправність діяння, якщо він пом'якшує кримінальну відповідальність, або якщо він іншим чином.
If liability is softened, if liability is cancelled, or if the status of the offender has changed. False testimony aggravates the status of the offender, and the sanctions as of 2021 were a certain number of subsistence minimums as per the date of the offense. In 2025, modifications were made. The sanction became more severe, and some part of actions were decriminalized. The borderline was increased to reflect the discrepancies between reliable and non-reliable information. So the law keeps improving the status of the individuals. So answers have been made. We're running out of time. Thank you, colleagues. And the candidate, you have 1 minute to provide any new information that you haven't yet made known to them. Dear members of the HQCJ and PCIe, I'm grateful for your study of my dossier. Was it easy for me to disclose different aspects of my life and career? No, it wasn't, but this is a price that you need to pay as a candidate to a high judicial position. And I'm confident that you will take the correct decision, and have been honest with you. Thank you for your participation. The interview is over. We'll have a break in